You.
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. Thanks again for being flexible and making this work. I'm sorry for the trouble yesterday.
No worries at all. I'm just happy to be able to have a Saturday and do this with you. This is going to be fun. I was looking forward to this.
I'm really excited as well.
Great. So before we get into it, just tell me a little bit about you, your business, where you're located, how long have you been doing it?
So I have been, I live in South San Francisco, so I'm board in the house SF. So I serve the greater SF Bay area. I started this page just kind of as a for fun thing. My friend's like, you should do this for a business. And I was like, okay, we'll see how that goes. So that was in September. So for the first couple of months, it was just more so for like social events, picnics, birthdays, like holiday stuff. And then in December, I was like, okay, let's see if I can do this for like a Christmas gift kind of idea. Ended up doing a couple for my friends. They posted. I ended up getting like a good chunk of DMs, and I was like, oh, okay, so like I can do this. And that's kind of where it took off. Then Valentine's Day, and I feel like there's always a holiday back to back to back. So it's been a little nonstop, but I think that's the thrill of it, and I'm just so excited to be moving forward from there.
So cool. And do you mind sharing with us what your business name is?
Board in the house, so like BOARD in the house SF. So it's based off that TikTok video. I don't know if you remember like the
I
beginning of
do. I was like, oh, pandemic, that brings it back.
that
That's
brings it way back. So I was a little late in the game on TikTok and everything else, but I was like, that's catchy. And I'm over here making boards in the house all the time. So it just seemed fitting. And that's it. That's board in
that's
the house.
the theme
That's
song.
that.
I love it. I said that's your theme song.
Yeah. Got a
How
little
great.
anthem going.
So with all the orders and these people that are requesting in DMs, are they requesting boards, cones? What are you putting out there as your product?
I think so. I started with the boxes just as like a quick, like grab and go kind of thing, which worked efficiently. And I think seeing like there's such a big cheese community on Instagram too. So I'm like, oh, look at these platters. Like the numbers are coming out. The cones are super big in summer. So like as I see new things, I'm inspired to obviously try new things for the menu and everything. So I started with boxes, then added platters, and now doing the cones. And I just put up a cone giveaway. I'm like, this is the largest like interaction rate I've had for any of my giveaways. So this is super exciting. But yeah, it's just kind of an ever expanding menu. And then I started posting grazing tables. So I gotten a few inquiries in that regard. And I know you're big on the grazing table. So I'm always super inspired by everyone. And truly, like, I feel like sky's the limit when it comes to building this business. So
Totally is. And there's always opportunity to pivot when things like COVID happen. Well, there's not necessarily grazing tables were popular, but to do the crates and to do the non-perishable things and the cones. So it's people will always need food. There's always going to be events. So there's always a way to just continue to grow in this industry and just kind of pivot with the way that it's flowing. So
for sure.
you sound like things are going well for you. How can I want to give you a nice coaching session. How can I be of service for you today?
Things are going well. I think mine's been kind of like a slow and steady build for the business. It hasn't been like all at once, like I'm getting hit with everything. So it's been like a gradual growth process. But I guess I want to know for you and Olive and Nectar, like how that kind of took off for you. Was it like, okay, I just did something for fun and then it turned into like business branding? Like I need help. Like how does it go from 0 to 100, or did you take like baby steps to get into that process?
Yeah, well, I actually relate a lot to you when someone's just saying like, you should sell these. Someone said that to me and I was like, really? Because I was just making them for fun at work and it's some event things. And then that's when I was like, well, maybe I should consider this. And just to answer something you said, where you have that steady growth versus just like overwhelm, that is a blessing. You don't want that overwhelm thrown on you because the burnout will happen a lot quicker, especially if you don't have like a mentor or someone to really guide you. Because I did burn out after probably, I think about 12 months, I burnt out because I didn't have all the
A
tools.
long time. Oh my gosh.
I know, but I was doing everything by myself and I was being like, gotta save my money, gotta da da da. When really I should have invested in someone to prep for me because I was doing like 8 to 12 hours in the kitchen prepping alone and then going to these parties, and I put my money on or my money I invested in an assistant to help style these tables with me. when in reality, I would have done that the opposite, because when I'm styling, I can't burn out. I could style tables every day, all day, but the prepping isn't really my favorite thing. And that's where the burnout is created as you're doing these things often. So, how Olive and Nectar got started was I had a full time job and I really got to make my own schedule because I couldn't work Monday through Fridays
Right.
until I had a big corporate client reach out to me. And I was like, wait, what? I can't turn this down. Like, what one event was like my paycheck after 4 weeks. So I was like,
Oh,
I'm definitely going to be sick that day. So that happened twice. I had to call out sick for my for Olive and Nectar for my job at the time, and then it just started to blossom. And I love that you're posting Grazing Tables, because the more people see that, the more they're like, oh, she offers this. This is what I want, one of these. I've been saying this recently a lot on Instagram and on a couple recent videos, is that you want to post what you want to sell. So if I have people that are like, I really want to do grazing tables, and then I look at their Instagram feed and it's all boards and boxes, and I'm like, you're not going to sell grazing tables if you're putting out boards and boxes. It's kind of obvious. So the more you
right.
put out tables, the more inquiries you're going to get.
I was thinking about that too, because grazing tables, it's not just something you piece together like, oh, let me just throw some stuff on a table. That's like a day's work. And I think especially like you saying, like prep is like the biggest part of a table. And I think that I've done for personal events. So for me, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm working at my own pace, my own rate. But if you're doing this on someone else's clock, you got to go, 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 and, be ready for that. But that's lots of words of wisdom that I wouldn't even think. I'm like, I think I'm posting the right things, but I'm like, am I creative content, or am I, trying to market more of the box platters? Like, of course I want to get tables going, but I was listening to you and Mo last week when you guys did your live, and just I think posting that content really like reaches the right audience, and I guess I'm like, shoot, like I need to start making more tables at this rate, but we'll see where that goes.
I know it's tricky because they're expensive to make. It's not just like you can make a bunch of tables and post those photos. I recommend the top two things that I say to people is to reach out to an influencer and do a grazing table for them. That way they have a lot of followers and you're getting a lot of eyes on the table. And then the other thing is a styled photo shoot. So that could be for a wedding. Basically, a styled photo shoot is with a photographer, a florist,
Right.
maybe some models, and then you get professional photos that way. And then those two things, if you go out of pocket for those two things, you'll usually have enough content to really get yourself started. That's what was such a blessing for my business.
Definitely. And I know with your business last week when you guys were discussing like invoicing and everything, and for those like larger investments, like I'm just starting to get a few more inquiries in that regard. I'm like, wow, this is like really kind of like more than my business mind is ready for. And in terms of like building your brand and building like the LLC and websites and everything, like how did you take that approach? Did it happen organically, or was it just part of the business plan for you?
It happened organically. It was kind of like baby steps. So I definitely started with creating my invoices for free on Google, like a Google Doc template. And that's how I would send my invoices. It wasn't like they could automatically pay. They could just visually see what the line items are, what's the tax. At first, I didn't realize sales tax was a thing. So the first few months, I didn't even charge that. And then I was able to figure that out. And so I started incorporating sales tax on all of my invoices. And then as I was continuing this, I was like, okay, I need to make this legit. And so I went to legalzoom.com and they took care of like all the permits and everything that I needed. And then my next step was to get my business license, but also my account, so that everything wasn't coming out of my personal checking. I wanted
Right.
to have it separate. So it's super easy to go to your local bank and set up a savings account. You can even get a credit card or apply for one, and then a business checking account. And that helped me really separate my 9 to 5 income from the side business and keep it all organized, so that one day when I was full time, that I had it separate and organized for my bookkeeper essentially.
Right. I think like hearing you guys talk about like QuickBooks and everything too, I'm like, why did I not think about this? I have like a pile of receipts. I'm like, I'm gonna enter them like eventually, but I'm like, now is the time. Like, and I think when we talked about the BBB class briefly before, I'm like, oh my God, I'm in school, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And my school program just got cut. It's a massage therapy program. So I'm like, maybe this is a blessing in disguise. And this is what I needed to focus more time into the business, because I've been trying to like manage 9 to 5 on top of like the business. I'm like, when do I do content? When do I have time for studying? When do I have time for, all of this? And like, okay, school can stay put away for a little bit up until I figure that plan out, because I think this is what I've been wanting to do, and it's just seems like the right time. So I'm so happy to have your guidance and everyone in the cheese community. I'm eternally grateful for, because it's just a lot of uplifting spirits and praise and everything. So I'm very grateful.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I hear you on the blessing in disguise, because I think when I launched the Graze Academy, probably a couple years ago, I put the course out. First, I was doing coaching with people. And then after, see, this is another form of burnout when you don't realize it. I took on, I think it was an 8-week thing that BBB was, and it was just coaching one-on-one. And I had, I don't know, 10 or 12 people. And that was, each call was an hour and 90 minutes. And
Oh my
that
gosh.
was overwhelming, because it was the same information. I'm like, oh my God, I have another call. And I was like, I need to record all this content. I'm just repeating myself over and over again. So that's when
Right.
the course was created. And then I put that out there. And then, it was prior to COVID. It was months prior to COVID. So I did the same thing. I was like, well, I don't know if anyone's going to really be interested in this. Maybe I should do something like get my real estate license. Like, cause I was, doing a little bit of all of the nectar, and then I put the course out, and I was like, I gave it a few months, and I'm like, I don't know. And then I changed the price a little bit, and I added more content to it. And then all of a sudden, the end of last year, so many people were reaching out, and I was like, oh my gosh. And like off of YouTube and Instagram. And I basically, I was like, maybe this is a sign for me not to pursue real estate. And I just completely dove into this, and now it's like a full-time job. And it's such a blessing, because this is what I love doing and creating the content. So it's so much fun. So I think what you're doing is just keep rolling with this.
For sure, meant to be. I think with that process too, I'm just like, okay, so I'm living, you can probably see my kitchen space in itself right here. So I don't have an abundance of prep workspace. So how did you, if you have like your, what is the word I'm looking for, commercial kitchen, do you have like a separate space outside of your living area that you do your work? Do you work from home in that regard, or how does that work in terms of your prep space?
So a lot of times, so in the very beginning, I did friends and family just to get photos out there. I would do things for free for some micro influencers, and I did them out of my studio. Something that was a huge priority for me, because I was in the hospitality server industry for like 10 years. So you probably are familiar with the Serve Safe.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so I took the Serve Safe several times, but there's a manager version that is a lot longer. It's probably double the price. And I learned so much from taking that, and it made me feel way more educated when preparing my food. And I felt comfortable preparing in my studio in the beginning, when I didn't even have my licenses. So then after that, I did get a commercial kitchen after I realized, okay, I have big parties. I cannot prepare. One time I had an order for 6 boards. They were 24 inches. That's when I was like, I do not want to pursue boards anymore, because it was such a nightmare. But anyway, I prepared out of a kitchen, and then other times I would prepare out of other people's kitchens, because it's a private event. So I would use the person who hired me's kitchen. So that was a great incentive to get
Nice woman.
to use their kitchen. And then I have people in the Board to Business Blueprint who are using cafes and restaurants that close at 2 p.m. and they're working out something with them. Or even like, what was the recent one that I just heard of? Basically like a turkey, some sort of butcher that is only open around the holiday. And so she's like, well, you have a kitchen, so can I work in your kitchen when it's not open in summertime? So there's all these different opportunities of these other kitchens that we can utilize if we don't have a commercial kitchen near us.
I love that. I mean, being so close to San Francisco, I can't imagine the abundance of commercial kitchens that are nearby, but that's good food for thought. And I think that's something that I guess, am struggling with, to say like, can I manage this next step on my own if that's like where it gets to? Because at this point I've been okay, like, you know, keeping hold of everything, managing like, you know, in this role you kind of, you're doing everything. You don't have necessarily anyone aside from like maybe your prep cook or doing, you know, social media marketing or whoever helps you with whatever. Like it's just me right now. So I'm like, where are my next steps? And like how do you know how much you want to invest in yourself in terms of like time, money, effort, energy? Like that's where I'm like, okay, like I have trouble recognizing when I'm burnt out because I get a thrill from being like, go, 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 go. And I'm like, wait a minute, I think I might be tired. But at this point, I'm still like, I want to keep going, but what are my next steps in order to get like to this next level of success?
I think when you're burnt out, you'll know. Because I know what you're talking about, of that go, go, go feeling, and it feels good, or you're tired and you have to wake up early and go to an event. When I realized I was burnt out, it wasn't like, oh, I'm burnt out. It was like, ugh, I don't want to do this. Or like when I saw myself, like someone, there was like a $1,500 invoice. I'm like, really? I really don't want to go back there and do another party for them. And I was like, what am I talking about? This is my baby. Why am I saying that? That's good money. I want this. And I was like, oh, it's because of the prepping. It's because I don't have anyone consistent there to help me prep. And the prep was like exhausting. And so I think that's when I realized, okay, I need help. And then that helped me get my creativity juices back and rolling. But to answer your question of like, how do I know if I should really pursue this? What are the steps? I say before anyone invests, like even if people invest in Board to Business Blueprint, I still say do some friends and family boards for a few weeks. Do some things for free. Make stuff for your boyfriend or your mom in your house and just get creative. Put the content out there. How does it feel when you're making a board? How does it feel when you post it and you get a lot of likes and even people DMing you? Do you like this? Maybe do it for a few weeks, just under the table, just do it. And then if it's sparking a bunch of joy, Marie Kondo, if it's sparking joy in you, then go for it. And I think that's what happened for me, was like, this feels so good. I've always been an entrepreneur, and I finally found something that like I could do that was mine and my schedule, and I just wanted to go for it, and I did. And there's been other opportunities of businesses that I almost pursued, but I didn't follow through because it really wasn't for me, or I didn't really feel the creativity from it. And so this is something that I was like, I really pursued, and it's probably the first thing that I gave my all to.
That's amazing. That's an incredible success story. And I'm so happy to hear it. I'm too have, like I said, been in hospitality for X amount of time. That's what I'm trying to pursue long term. I want to do like corporate events. So this is like right up my alley. And I think I'm in a job, luckily right now, which is like flexible. It's not exactly the industry I want to be in. So I work administrative work, but it's allowed me to maintain both my side business and go to my 9 to 5 job on a regular basis. But I think with myself, at least, I'm trying to figure out like what my price is for my business. I'm like, I know how much my supplies cost, like price per unit and everything. Like, how did you separate that, I guess, flat fee for like, this is how much my supplies cost, but like, how much does your time cost?
Such a good question, because at the end of the day, if you're buying your boards, your parchment paper, your hairnet, all these things, and then all of a sudden you've been working, 7 hours on preparing this board, but the board's like $60. You're like, wait, did I just make $5 an hour? How much did I just make? So it is important to calculate that time. In terms of like to know your price in the beginning, it's really tricky because you want to, it's kind of important to have a little bit of discounts. Like I like to say, local competitors that are near you, you either want to be $2 to $5 above or under. And in the beginning, I recommend being under, just to get your feet wet, just to get that experience. And then more people will be attracted to that price. And then gradually, as you grow, you can increase that price. But it comes with experience of the essential things. Like when I told you I set up my bank account,
Mm-hmm.
the credit card is where I put the things that I need to keep stocked in inventory, whether that's the dry storage, like a bag of, 5 pounds of almonds, or hairnets, ice packs, aprons, all the things that I need, cheese.
Yes, that's so fast.
so many things you have to keep stock, but that's not necessarily the client's responsibility to pay on that first invoice. So
Right.
it's your business, it's your baby. So you go out of pocket just to keep things stocked. But then as you start to send more invoices, you'll see that the line items like the setup fee, the delivery fee, maybe there's sometimes there's a breakdown fee depending on your props, but all of that stuff, those add-ons, those are going to your business. Those are paying for the parchment paper and the gloves and all the things that you need. So that's kind of, you'll be reimbursed. It just takes a few invoices.
I think that's where like I'm at right now, because I'm wondering, like, okay, I had like all these rushes. So Mother's Day just passed, obviously, a couple of weeks ago. Then we have grad season, dad season, Memorial Day, like all these fun things coming up. And I'm like, okay, like I've been like orders have been quiet for these last couple of weeks, and I've partnered up with one of my friends in the luxury picnic business. So we kind of work side by side together to do collaborations, and I've had opportunities like that to put myself out there. But I'm just like, how do I get more of a following, I guess? I'm not necessarily saying like I need more followers, I need more likes, I need more this, but I'm just like, I went from having like a bunch of bam, 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 like DMs and inquiries like that. I'm like, is it slow season? Like, am I not marketing something correctly? And then I posted this giveaway, and now I'm like seeing more user engagement, still inquiries coming in, but I'm just like I said, I live off of that thrill. So I'm like, I love seeing those DMs come in, and I'm working on getting my website built right now. So that's another tool that I think will probably help the market a little bit. But do you have any suggestions for when you get in those ruts, or
Yeah,
or
definitely. I have some tips and tricks you can use. So there will always be a slow time. And in that slow time, that's when you can really get creative and with your content, especially content. And that can be with a reel. I'm not sure if you're posting on reels, but those are a great way to get people engaged with your content. Another option is, I'm so happy you did the giveaway because you're seeing how people are really flocking to that. With any other post that you're posting, whether it's a board, box, grazing table, make sure you're ending your captions with a CTA, a call to action. You're basically ending it with a question or asking your audience something relative to the post. So that can be like, hey guys, do you want to see flowers on my next board, or do you want to see a cheese wheel cake? Ask them what they want to see. And then sometimes it helps if you see the other tip I would say is, if there's consistent people liking your post, but they never comment, they never engage, they're never direct messaging you, go to their page and reach out to them and break that ice. And then that way it's like, oh, she reached out to me, I always like her stuff, and make conversation. So sometimes people will just be like, I like your hair. Like, that's so short and sweet, but where can we go with that? So sometimes a question always helps. Lead with the question, so that's not just a yes or no question, but it's open-ended.
open-ended.
Exactly.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
love that. Yay. That's great advice. I feel like I think like captions are the hardest thing for me. I spent like hours editing, and I'm like, okay, I'm ready. I'm like, wait, am I ready? Is this going to be like the post that makes it all? Or I don't know. It's just those little things that you think about. But if I may ask, in this time that you've been doing Olive and Nectar and the Grace Academy, what have you considered like your biggest success, and then your biggest area of growth, which is like, I feel like growth is everlasting. So it's never just one thing that's like, okay, I need to work on this or improve upon this. But can you think of those, like first thing comes to mind?
Yeah, well, they're two completely separate businesses. So I think with the Grace Academy, it's really like, if we're talking about solely the Grace Academy success, but it's so relative to the catering side as well, is if I don't post a reel, and if I don't post a photo, and if I don't post a YouTube video, no one's interested. It's quiet. There's probably a couple people that come in. But the minute I'm posting a YouTube video and I batch my content and there's posts rolling out, I'm getting messages like this. I'm getting sales on my phone. And it's like, I tell my husband, I'm like, wow, babe, if I'm quiet, it's quiet. But if I'm not quiet, people are there. They want to hear from me. They're there for me. The same thing goes for Olive and Nectar and charcuterie. And although I've teamed up with someone that's running a lot of my events and focusing on that for me, so I can focus on the Graze Academy. It's the same thing when it comes to that charcuterie. Like if I'm not posting boards and boxes and tables, no one's going to reach out to me unless it's just like, a passer buyer. But when you're posting and you're showing up on their feed, you have to tell the people they want you. They don't know that they want that box or that table. So if you keep popping up and showing up for them, it's going to be in their face. Like, have you ever seen an ad for something personal that you want, whether it's skincare or a pair of shoes?
Absolutely.
And
It's what they're listening. It's like they know you're talking exactly about those things.
No, exactly. So it's like my friend told me she saw the mirror, that workout mirror. It popped up like 4 times. And then she's like, what is this ridiculous? And then the 5th time, she's like, looked at it and she bought it. Like after 5 times, and she got it. So that's kind of the mindset you need to have with your business is like, post that grazing table, repost that grazing table from 3 months ago, repost that board, and just keep posting and being consistent. And these people, they're going to hire you. And it's the same thing also with my course, boards and courses. The more there's people that are like, oh, I'm interested in your course, or I've kept my eye on it for 3 months. And then they sign up but they didn't sign up 3 months ago. It just took them to see my content often. And then I'm like, okay, I want to take the leap. I want to invest in this.
Like today's the day. It's so funny that you say that, like being MIA for a little bit, because I told myself after Mother's Day, I didn't announce a break or anything. I was just like, I'm just going to take a break from posting anything. And it's exactly that. Like this last week that I was like kind of quiet in terms of like my DMs and inquiries, I was just like, wait a minute, I haven't posted like any new posts. Maybe I think like a few stories, a little bit of polling to get some feelers out there, but that does make all the difference. And it's so interesting hearing it from your perspective, because I'm like, oh my God, that's exactly what it was. So it's just a matter of staying consistent and being all about the user engagement. Do you set aside like certain days for that, or is it just kind of as it comes? Or do you have the app? I know there's an app that you can schedule like your posts and everything too.
I was just talking to my friend about this. She has a social media management company. And I was like, I can't log into my apps for auto posting. That's just a side issue. So if Instagram's watching this, I need to reset my password. But no, I do batch my content for Reels. And then I create some of my content on Canva and have it on my phone. But I do schedule out a time to like, okay, I'm going to post at this time because this is when my audience is on. Say it's Wednesdays at 1 o'clock or whatever. And then time for engagement, of course, set aside. I'm getting better. I was time blocking a lot. And then I've, recently moved. And so it's been like hard to stick with my schedule. So with that being said, I try my best to create that time schedule to post and then engage and then go from there.
I love that. Good framework to have. And
yeah.
I've picked up so much from this call already. So I'm really, really grateful that we can talk about all this.
Yay, me too. It was such a pleasure. It flew by quick.
I know. I'm like looking at the time. I'm like, is there any additional questions you have for me? Or I'm trying to think of anything else I can ask you. I think of like a million questions later and I'm like, I should have asked this.
No, you're fine. Where can we find you on social media?
I am on Instagram at Board in the House SF, and then I am looking into my website options right now. Once again, hearing you and Mo's live last week, I'm like, I swear I needed to hear this so much. There's so many things that I'm like, should I do this? Should I do that? And you guys were just on it, talking about Wix, talking about Shopify, talking about all these things. I'm like, okay, this is my time. So website coming soon, and a lot of other creative content in the works and getting places. But once we're done with finals, which is this weekend, I will have a lot more time to dedicate to Board in the House SF. So lots to come.
Amazing. Well, I'm so happy we had this opportunity. Feel free to send me a direct message or email anytime, and I'm happy to help you.
Thanks, Sophia. I appreciated this.
Welcome, Marissa. Of course, it was my pleasure. Have a great weekend.
You too. Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.